This is Morning Juice. Sports, insight, and great storytelling. Starring Bobby Carpenter and Jeff Tito Thidoff. It's time to attack and dominate.
All right, a new week to dominate. Morning Juice, Tito, Bobby Carpenter, Mark the Shark with you. Big show lined up for you today. Bill Bennett of the Sporty is going to join us. We've got so much to talk about today. Lots went on in the past couple of days since we last spoke with you. Make sure to join us on the YouTube chat. We'd love to hear from you there. Bobby, how are you this morning, my friend?
Good. Jeff cannot complain. Everything's good.
Getting some audio issues there, Bob. You sound awful sketchy on that one, little staticky. We'll try to get it taken care of here. By the way, in sports this weekend, yesterday the Reds beat the Cardinals 4-1. Cincinnati welcomes the Yankees tonight at 7:10. Chase Burns, the number 2 pick in the 2024 MLB draft, who's excelled at all 3 levels of the minor leagues this season, will be promoted and make his major league debut Tuesday. Guardians over the A's 3-0. Guards off today. Host Toronto tomorrow.
All right, Tito, hang on a second because this is a casual show.
Sure.
A fun, casual joint.
Yes.
I want to see if we can fix Bobby's problems. Go ahead and talk again, Bob.
Well, I don't know. It's been sitting here for 20 minutes.
Are you?
Talked a little earlier.
Are you? Yeah. Are you? Can you hear that in your headset?
No, everything sounds good on my
Oh man,
it's awfully staticky coming over this end.
Staticky. It's hard to even understand what you're saying. That's not good. Bob is in Dayton this morning.
Yep.
Getting ready to play in a golf tournament. He's in a hotel room. Let's see if
that's better.
You know, he's kind of a pseudo engineer, so I have a hunch he's going to figure this out.
There's not much Bobby can't do. Let's be honest. The Guardians, like I say, host Toronto tomorrow. In the NBA, Oklahoma City won their first NBA title, defeating Indiana 103-91. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 29 points, 5 rebounds, 12 assists, named the series MVP. Tyrese Halliburton had 9 points in the first 7 minutes before suffering what some reports suggest is a torn Achilles. If that's the case, he could join Jason Tatum on the bench sidelines for the entire next season. That's too bad. It's 9 points in 7 minutes, looking pretty good.
3 threes.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard wears the number 0.
That's right.
Jason Tatum wears the number 0.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese Halliburton wears the number 0. All 3 with Achilles injuries during the playoffs.
If they were 27 years old, rock stars, they'd be dead. That's wow. Yeah, that's a huge loss for India. It sucked for Pacers fans. You know.
We'll never know what would have happened had he stayed in the game. Indiana was still up by a point at halftime.
Right.
And then I think it was 34-20 OKC in the third quarter, and that was the difference.
That was the difference right there. I was Peter Gabriel this weekend, Shark.
Dirty Laundry.
I used a sledgehammer. Dirty Laundry is Don Henley.
That's right, sledgehammer.
He used a sledgehammer this weekend. So I just thought maybe you and Bobby would be proud of that.
What do you mean?
That I used a sledgehammer.
What did I
sledgehammer?
Use it on one of your kids or
what? We got a bunch of big rocks in the backyard. We were breaking them up and making them into little gravel so we can put it on our patio thing we're putting together. So that's all. Look, I would just say go out and buy gravel. Wife's like, no, we're not going to waste this stuff we have, and because she's, Heather's she's become very earth conscious. There we go. Bob, let's try you again, buddy. You there?
Yeah, you guys got me?
There we go.
That's the Bobby we know and love.
Well, the good news is just be glad that I brought my own microphone and didn't rely on the company equipment because that was the problem.
Okay, so now we know.
We're good to go now.
You sound great. You look great. And now you're going to do something great for us.
Time to get smarter. Morning Juice presents Today in History. Here's your professor, Bobby Carpenter.
Take it away, Bobby.
All right, it is Monday, June 23rd, the 174th day of the year, 191 days remaining in this 2025. This date, 1868, Christopher Lathan Scholes receives a patent for his invention. They called it, Shark, the typewriter. You ever heard one of those?
Seen one of those? I used to use one of those. Now it's just a keyboard.
I heard they caught one of them in the wild once, and they keep them in the zoo. There's not many remaining. They're endangered. This date, 1887, the Rocky Mountain Act becomes law in Canada, creating the first national park up there, which was Banff National Park. Beautiful part of the country. This date, 1917, Red Sox pitcher Ernie Shore. You ever heard of him, Shark?
I do. I know what you're going to say, and I'll let you say it. Babe Ruth faced one batter.
Yep.
Faced one batter, gets ejected after fighting with an umpire. Ernie Shore goes on to retire 26 batters fed off in a row after coming in relief.
Yep, I know the story well. For a while, there's always been a debate whether it should be considered a perfect game or not. But it's. Did you see about the College World Series this weekend, Bob? It was LSU won the College World Series. The manager was at Coastal Carolina, got ejected in the first inning. Came out to argue something balls and strikes. Yep.
And but he wasn't the pitcher though.
No, he wasn't the pitcher. No. But ejected very early though.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I saw that. It was it was a fun deal, and them and LSU battling back and forth. Really, really nice in the College World Series there. I honestly enjoy watching college baseball more than I enjoy watching Major League Baseball, and I don't know if it's just the speed of the game. I know that you don't like the metal bats, but
yeah,
it's there's a lot more juice in the games, at least, and you can feel the energy of the fans as well.
No doubt.
This date, 1926, the College Board administers the first SAT of all time, so almost 100 years old. And then on this date, 1960, the FDA declares Enovid to be the first approved oral contraception in the world.
Development of the pill, as it became popularly known, was initially commissioned by birth control pioneer Margaret Sanger and funded by heiress Catherine McCormick. Sanger, who opened the first birth control clinic in the U.S. in 1916, hoped to encourage the development of a more practical and effective alternative to contraceptives that were in use at the time. In the early 1950s, Gregory Pincus, a biochemist at the Worcester Foundation for Experimental Biology, and John Rock, a gynecologist at Harvard Medical School, began work on a birth control pill. Clinical tests of the pill, which used synthetic progesterone and estrogen to repress ovulation in women, were initiated in 1954.
And that is today's Health Minute.
Was that John Rocker?
You ever take the pill?
No,
not Rocker.
I thought John Rock. Okay, different. No, Bobby, but I will tell you this: it's a wonderful invention.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're proud of that.
It's brought me great comfort.
John Rocker getting it done for you, doing a lot of great things. Maybe he came in relief of Babe Ruth too. This date, 1969, IBM decouples their hardware and software, creating what is now the modern software industry for the computers. 1972, Title IX is amended to include sexual discrimination to any educational program that is receiving federal funds. And I just saw that coming through. I was like, man, it's over 50 years old, and it's going to be interesting as all the lawsuits come in with the House settlement of how this is all going to get squared away in college athletics. 1975, Red Octopus is released by Jefferson Starship.
We get by, only you believe in miracles, so will I.
What's your favorite iteration of the Jeffersons or the Starships?
It would be right before we built this city. So like that.
That was just
Starship, right? So I'm saying like whatever, but it was part of the group was still in there. I'm saying probably the. What's the Jane? Is that their song? Or is Jane?
Yeah,
Jane. Jane. I like that song. Yeah.
Good. Shark?
Probably Jefferson Airplane I liked the best because I like Grace Slick a lot, but that song I just played is my favorite. I guess that'd be Jefferson Starship.
I think that the lead singer, that Mickey guy, I think, I can't remember his last name is. I think he is still touring
Mickey
with
Rourke, I think.
That's what it is. Still touring with the band. Yes.
He actually went and sang in Portsmouth's River Days. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I saw him down there. He's getting up there.
Yeah.
He's still battling though, Fidoff.
There we go.
That's what's key. 1979, Breakfast in America hits #1 by Supertramp.
Then they sent me away, teach me how to be sensible, logical, responsible, practical.
I had no idea that I always thought that was a Queen song.
The Logical song?
That was by Supertramp. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real nice. And another big one, Devil Went Down to Georgia, is released on that same day by Charlie Daniels.
The boy said, my name's Johnny, and it might be a sin, but I'll take your bet you're gonna regret, cause I'm the best as ever been. Johnny, rosin up your bow and
Play your fiddle hard.
It's a great tune.
It really is. It's one of my favorite things to see performed live too. You like some dueling pianos. This spot down in the arena district called the Big Bang. We would go down there, watch dueling pianos a lot early, right after I'd got out of college. It was one of my favorite things to do. Get some live music, and every once in a while they had it in Nashville, and they'd bring up a guy who could do a little fiddling, and he'd get up on the piano, bang away on that fiddle for you to fit off. And then let's take 1984, The Reflex by Duran Duran hits #1.
That was a banger. I love that song.
I was not a huge Duran Duran fan. They're okay to me, but some people really love them. Are you two some of the ones that really love them?
Yes.
Okay. Some birthdays, and this is one that Shark always loves. That I think we were workshopping one day for the fan poll about where he ranks of all-time heroes in all of history. Art Modell, or on this date, 100 years ago.
Art Modell's legacy is safe in NFL annals. He owned his franchise for 40 years, helped broker the merger between the NFL and AFL, was instrumental in the establishment of NFL Films and Monday Night Football. But his legacy was affected, jolted really, by the events of 1995 when he brokered another deal, one that would pull the Browns out of Cleveland and send them to Baltimore.
The transition was unbelievable. The humiliation and the hanging in effigy and all that stuff back in Cleveland, unforgivable.
Yeah, it was unforgivable what you did.
Modell and hell rhyme.
Let me.
Who was that talking right there?
That was Modell. He was saying what the fans did to him in Cleveland, hanging him in effigy, was unforgivable. Come on.
So wait, they're looking for his forgiveness? Is that what he was concerned of?
I guess.
Withhold his forgiveness? Come on.
Bob, don't talk too much because you're staticky again. So just be brief.
Okay.
I don't know how to fix this.
Okay.
You went south on us again. I don't know why. Anyway.
June Carter Cash, born in 1929.
See, I haven't been on the show this season except on film because I've been busy. Maybe most of you know about our little baby. We've got a little baby boy, John Carter Cash, and he's a perfect little baby, and I just wanted to say thank you to all you wonderful people all around the world. I'm not singing too well. I haven't sung in a long time, and I've been busy doing other things. Don't play your hand, you talking man, make a big fool of yourself. Yeah, go to Jackson. Go comb your...
Speaking of Jackson, Randy Jackson, turning 69 today of Journey, American Idol fame. Chico DeBarge turning 59 today as well. Kevin Dyson turning 50.
Final play of the game in regulation. It is caught by Dyson. Can he get in? No, he cannot. Mike Jones made the tackle. And the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
he gets in, Shark, if he scores a touchdown there and they win that game, Eddie George is in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
He'd be the MVP of the Super Bowl, too. He would. He was having a great game that game. And I think that's only holding him back. I think if that had happened, he'd be in the Hall of Fame for sure.
Not like 47 years back.
What's your favorite thing you stole from another stadium?
Listen, is there statute of limitations? I mean, I'm not going to jail on your podcast.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, gosh, man, the best thing ever. Some of my favorite stuff that I have hanging now, we just moved down to Chepachet, Rhode Island. And in the move, I found some stuff that I had ganked from the Super Bowls. So, again, I was always the first guy off the field, right? It was like my goal to get to the bar as quickly as possible. I would rip down all these banners. I remember just jumping up and just running, ting, 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 wadding it up. And I have all these really awesome banners from the Super Bowl eras, like the ones that hang in the hotel.
Oh, yeah, pretty stuff. But then he was 46 today.
You know, being a running back is kind of like being an artist.
While their artistry is similar, LaDainian Tomlinson has painted solo masterpieces for a decade. Tomlinson led the NFL by rushing for 12,490 yards in the 2000s. In the history of the NFL, few have been better near the goal line than Tomlinson. In 2006, he set the NFL record with 31 touchdowns in a season.
You play it to leave a mark on the game. You play it for people to say, when LaDainian Tomlinson was in the NFL, he lit it up. He was definitely one of the best running backs of all time.
Hey, Bob, let's cut this short and go to break so we can fix the problem there. I will say great job as always, General, because I know it's what I'm supposed to say. It's in the script, but let's go to a break here. We'll try to get that figured out. Bill Benner of Sporty is going to join us next. Morning Juice.
Around the world, Children International and friends like you are giving children in poverty a chance to grow and thrive, to be healthy, to succeed in school, and achieve great things. How do we do it? In the best way possible, by helping ensure access to healthcare, nutrition, and educational opportunities. And most importantly, by empowering youths and their families to get out of poverty and into employment through life skills, computer, and job training. The very tools they need to break the cycle of poverty and build futures full of promise. Because every child deserves a chance to realize their full and best potential. Learn more about how Children International is empowering children and families by going to children.org today. That's children.org.
I'm a wife and the mother of 2 kids, and I've got a good job.
Bye, Mom. See you, Mom.
A pretty important job. Because of my family and my job, I really care about this neighborhood. It's a good neighborhood. Yes, there's some crime. And when I drive to work, like now, I realize that some people here don't trust the police. So the police should be reaching out to this community, and this community should reach out to the police. That's the way to make this a safer place. And when I get to work in the precinct house and put on my uniform, I can tell you as a police officer that this department is reaching out to the community, and the community is doing its part. We're building partnerships. This should be happening everywhere. This is how we can all be safer. Get involved. Start the conversation.
Start the conversation and help stop crime. To learn the 5 things you can do, go to ncpc.org/prevent violent crime. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
It's been a real journey since 2014 when I first had my injury. I realized that my home was just not working for me and that it was time to ask for help. Homes for Our Troops is really giving me my life back. The shower allows me to go in and turn around with my chair, pull down storage racks, automated door systems, hours of my morning given back to me. Adaptive sports are a huge part of my life, a huge part of my healing journey as well. Homes for Our Troops helped with making sure that I had a home gym so that I can continue to train. This past year, I was able to host Thanksgiving in my home. And it was the first time I was able to have my whole family in one place and I was able to contribute to the meal. There are a lot more veterans in need, and Homes for Our Troops is going to be there to help them too.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Attack and dominate, YouTubers. You're locked into the Morning Juice.
All right, Morning Juice. We think we got Bobby's stuff fixed. I feel confident. Bobby, say hello to our listeners.
How we doing? Why would you feel confident in this?
Because you're over there. You got it. I said before, you're one of the smartest people I know, Bob. I think you
I wouldn't say that. Well, that probably is true, but it's more the fact that I've done a lot of different stuff like this through a lot of different platforms over the last decade, probably more so than anyone in that building. So by virtue of just being on a lot of different stuff and having to troubleshoot a lot of different things, when you told me the static was coming through, I had a hypothesis of why it was. And I think I've got it figured out on my end. And it was interesting that was never like fully addressed earlier, because I've had these similar issues before, like I said, on other shows, and just got to sometimes understand a little how to give it a little TLC there, Thidoff.
That's one of the few differences between you and I. You have hypotheses, I have guesses. So the fact that right there is that's the difference between you and I. Bill Bender joins us now for the Sporting News. Bill, good morning to you. And we are a mere 61 days until the first 4 college football games. What has you most excited about the upcoming season right now?
Floated. It's not just Ohio State, Texas. It's LSU, Clemson, and Notre Dame, Miami, and just all of the week one storylines. Typically, we don't have a loaded week one, and this year we do. And, I mean, even week 0, they're sending Kansas State and Iowa State over to Dublin, and typically that wouldn't excite too many people, but those will be 2 top 25 teams when the AP poll comes out. So it's a really exciting week one, and I hope we get that in the future where teams are willing to take and make those risks with their non-conference schedule.
Speaking of week one, Bill, there was some talk at the conference commissioners meetings where they all got together exploring the moving of the opening of the season to the week 0 and turning that into the new week 1. It seems like that solves a lot of problems, and I don't feel like it got near the traction of maybe some of the other stories that were there, because I think most people are proponents of that at this point. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, I think it would help a couple ways. I think it would help us push the playoff up a little bit. It would give college football an extra week that it's not fighting for attention with the NFL. I mean, you'd have another weekend all to yourselves. And, the calendar's already been pushed up. I mean, media days are earlier than they used to be. I think you could push up practice earlier. I mean, the camp circuit right now is almost finished, I believe. You get through all the football camps in June, and then we're off and running. Now, I know the one concern that always gets brought up, and Bobby, you and I have talked about it, is the southern schools say it's going to be too hot, but I think it's going to be hot 7 days later, too. So, I don't know if I buy that one as much. I mean, we just did a lacrosse tournament up here in 90-degree weather yesterday in New Albany with 5th and 6th grade girls, and you just take extra water breaks.
You guys did okay in that tournament, didn't you?
We did all right. Yeah, the girls had fun. We have a first-year program, 256 girls. They have a flag and everything. They did a really good job. I mean, the fact that they're out there running around, parents should never complain, right? Like, we're just standing on the sideline, trying to get a good video or something.
Bill Bender joins for Sporting News here on Morning Juice. When it comes to the CFP, nothing's been decided yet. Obviously, the only thing they really decided was everyone's got to do some injury reports in the CFP. When do you think we'll have, or do you think there's a timeline for a decision on the 2026 and beyond CFP format?
I hope they get it done this summer, and it sounds like some compromise need to be made, Tito. And I wrote about this last week, later in the week. I think if I was in that room, I think a couple compromises that need to be made is I don't know if the Big Ten or any conference is going to get 4 automatic berths, 4 automatic qualifiers, whatever you want to call it. And I think the SEC needs to play 9 conference games. I think we need to hit that. So And then at that point, if the SEC does play 9 conference games and they want to do the strength of schedule argument, have at it at that point. I think those are 2 that need to be made. And I think the SEC and the Big Ten need to lead the charge toward a 16-team playoff. Otherwise, we could get stuck with 12 for a few more years. And some people will say that's fine. I liked it, and let's do it for a few more years. But I don't know. I just think if you want more teams in the playoff, the SEC and the Big Ten especially, I don't see how you wouldn't want to go to 16.
So I got a chance to spend some time last night, Bill, with Marcus Freeman, and was talking to him about, the schedule, everything that goes through in, May and June and and how busy they are. And it was just looking and talking about, where some of the teams are coming back. We're, obviously Notre Dame will be breaking in a new quarterback. They've got their quarterback battle. What chances do you give them of maintaining this level that they're at? They've been recruiting pretty well. And over the course of the last 10, 12 years, Tyrone Willingham had one good season. Charlie Weiss had one good season. There's been times, Brian Kelly, he had multiple and kind of established it, but they maybe I don't think we're ever consistently in that top, 5 or 6, that elite echelon that you try to get to. Does it feel like they're there to stay now?
I have a lot of faith in Marcus Freeman, and I mean, you obviously know him, and I think it's his ability to recruit has certainly helped. They have maintained that. He has built off the momentum of last year's championship game appearance. That they're doing. I know last week they picked up a huge recruit. Some of it's going to hinge on C.J. Carr. You have a quarterback, and the first time in the last 3 years that it wasn't a transfer quarterback. So I'm excited to see that. They've had somebody in their system who's kind of patient and waited their turn and is going to get a chance to play. They do have a ton of talent back. Schedule's rough early. I don't know if he talked to you about that, but, I mean, you're playing Miami and Texas A&M right out of the chute in the first 3 weeks. So, and with Notre Dame, remember last year they lost one game and we thought they were done the rest of the year. That will be the key, just avoiding those hiccups. But it's a tougher schedule for Notre Dame this year. There's no question. And if they can get through that, which I think they will, and get to 10 wins, they'll be right back in the playoff.
Well, I just want to follow up on that, Bill, because you mentioned how tougher the schedule was, A&M and Miami early on. Last year, that conversation, just due to their schedule, how it looked, they didn't have that margin for error. Do you think this gives them a little more margin to where they could lose that second game and still probably get in this year?
Yeah, if they split those first 2, I think they'd be okay. And the thing is, their schedule's front-loaded. They also have a trip to Arkansas that won't be easy. They're randomly playing Boise State. But if you look at the back half, if they can get through those ACC teams, that ACC portion of the schedule, I think they'll have enough there that they can get back. And, Marcus, one of the things he did, and I remember the lead up to the championship game, was he created a lot of excitement around Notre Dame, and this was written about a lot. It wasn't just us at Sporting News. Like, he makes them a little bit likable. And that's probably the first time I've said that in my lifetime outside of the Notre Dame fan base, where typically everybody else doesn't like Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman changed that a little bit.
Bill, I know you spoke to Peyton Manning about Arch Manning and what's going to be going on with him. Did you get that? Do you think that there's a world where he does come back, or do you, if you had to decide which way he's going to lean? Because it sounds like they're playing they're playing the long game with this one in the Manning family.
Yeah, I think the patience stands out. Now, Peyton wouldn't tell me, hey, Arch is going to stay the next 2
Right.
years. That would have been amazing if he did. But I think the thing he was focused on was he does believe Arch will have a lot of success because of what we were just talking about. He's had the same coordinator, the same coach. Steve Sarkisian calls the plays, that continuity. You look at Peyton Manning's career. When he was with the Colts, all those years with Indianapolis, he had 2 offensive coordinators, Tom Moore most of the time. Tom Moore was the coordinator through 2 coaches. So, I do think they're not in a big hurry. And this is just speculation, but I won't be surprised if Arch Manning does play 2 years as a starter at Texas. And if you look at all the number 1 quarterbacks since Peyton Manning, I've been throwing this stat out there quite a bit, all the quarterbacks taken number one since 1998, only 2 had 1 year as a full-time starter, and it was Cam Newton and Kyler Murray. Everybody else had multiple years as a starter. Cam Ward last year, of course. So, surprised at all if Peyton Manning or Arch Manning stays for 2 years.
What are we working on right now, summer-wise, over there at the Sporting News, Bill? I know it's list season. You guys do a ton of great stuff. You had some rivalry stuff, I believe, last week that came out about the best rivalries in college football. What do we have kind of on the docket as we're moving forward?
Well, I'm going to get into bowl projections and playoff projections today. So your Notre Dame question stands because I'm probably going to have that debate with them this morning. And then Kimberly's out of town for work tomorrow, so I'm going to have the kids for a couple days, and I always make the joke that we run a little bit of looser program than when Kimberly's in town versus out of town. It's definitely loose when it's just Dad in the house.
What's the go-to meal when Dad's? What's go-to dinner when Dad's in the house?
They would assume that we're going to get fast food, but on one of the nights, but especially when we're running. But we don't do that a ton, so it'll be. We do a lot of chicken tenders when Mom's gone. Those are easy, right? And kids always like chicken tenders anyway.
That is definitely a win. Big deal right there. We were talking earlier about like the heat with the lacrosse. We were out there in New Albany as well this weekend, and it was pretty hot. But that's the argument when you start talking about these games being earlier. Like the kids are used to this stuff. Everybody goes out there and plays. To me, Bill, when the SEC brings up the argument about not wanting to move it earlier, I don't think it's the players they're concerned with. Most of the people that I've talked to, it's the fans wanting to sit in the stands and them complaining about the noon games that they would have to play in that heat as opposed to worrying about any type of player element.
Yeah, and I think you would have to have more primetime games. And, of course, like when I'm talking about heat, I am aware you would have safety concerns, and when you have that many people in a stadium, you don't want anybody suffering from heat exhaustion or the players. So I understand all that, but Alabama and Texas played in 100-degree heat a couple years ago, and it was one of the best games of the year. And it's hot up here too. I mean, Ohio State. I've been in that stadium when it's cooking. So. I do think if we just moved it up 1 week, you could work with that, and I think it would help the college football calendar a tremendous deal. And again, you can always, prepare for those concerns. I mean, to me, there wasn't there. What was it called? Buckeye Country Fest. You have people that do this all summer. They go out in hot weather and go to these events, concerts, games. It's part of the experience.
Bill, I'm curious. One of the things I'm looking forward to this season with college football is seeing how Eddie George does up at Bowling Green. I'm curious, what do you think makes him successful as a coach, and what kind of expectations do you have for him at BG?
Well, at Tennessee State, his record got better each year, and he grinded there and helped get the experience he needed to get and I think he was choosy before he took an FBS job. I could say this. I'm trying to think of who name the coach of Mac School has been in the last 25 years. He's probably it. You have a Heisman Trophy winner, former Ohio State legend. If he sticks up there, he should be able to recruit well. And Bowling Green hasn't been very good for the last decade. Really, you look at their record, it hasn't been great. The other Ohio schools have had a lot of success. So, as you know, with me being a Bobcat, I mean, part of me is excited that he's there, and part of me is like, man, they're going to get all the attention, even if, the defending MAC champions are going to do their thing this year down in Athens. So I'm excited for it. I think he'll do well. And if he does do well over the next 2 to 3 years, then, the Power 4 schools will be calling.
So that's what I was going to ask is if he doesn't do well, he won't be there too long. If he does do really well, he may not be there too long. If I set the over-under at 3.5 seasons, Bill, what would you lean in with that right now?
Well, I'm going to bank on him doing well. So I think you're going to be right on that line, that he'll spend 3 to 4 years there. And I'll say 4. And he's 4 years. Because Bowling Green, it's going to take a minute. You can't just flip that overnight. And if he's there for 4, and I think he'll do well by year 3 and 4, that, like I said, whether it's another group of 5 conference at a larger school or a Power 4 conference, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they called Eddie George. He's young. You talk to him. He's got a dynamic personality. He knows football. And I think, of all those former college football legends that have come back into the game, Michael Vick, there are others, Deshaun Jackson, that I'm probably most intrigued by what Eddie George does at BG.
Bill, there's a 30 for 30 on North Carolina State with Jim Valvano called Survive in Advance, and I want you to take that mantra with you for the next couple of days when your wife's out of town. Just survive in advance. That's all you got to do, Bill.
That's my favorite one, no question. Yep. So I've seen that one a few times. I may watch that when the kids go to bed.
There you go. Thanks for the time, Bob. We appreciate it. We'll talk next week.
Have a great week.
Hey, Bob, before we go to break, I want to ask you this question. Eddie George at BG, let's say he's successful. We said, like you said, he'd probably be there a short time and move on. Does a former Buckeye who goes on to be a head coach of a Big Ten team, like Fickell at Wisconsin now, does that make it less likely, or doesn't it matter as far as being a head coach at Ohio State someday?
More likely for him to be the head coach at Ohio State someday?
Like Fickell going to Wisconsin, does that do you think that makes it, does that have any impact, you think, on his chances of maybe someday being the Ohio State head football coach?
So based upon like Luke Fickell doing that, does that help Eddie George?
No, I'm saying it's Fickell's thing. Like Fickell being there, does it help Fickell's? Does it hurt Fickell's chances to someday be the Ohio State head coach? The fact he's coaching at another Big Ten school as a head coach now.
Do you know how many coaches we've had at Ohio State that have come from other Big Ten schools? That have come from, as far as a head coach? There were a head coach that were hired as formerly another head at another program in the Big Ten.
Probably none.
Shark?
Yeah, I'm going to say none. 0.
Yeah. So the answer is 0. Now, I don't think there's like a firm precedent with that, but that's just the history of it. So I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
But number one, the job has to be open.
Sure.
And you look at Ryan, and he's in his early probably mid 40s now. I don't know how long he wants to have that job. I would imagine after winning a national championship and assuming that they're going to have sustained success here for the next couple of years, that it wouldn't be open for 5 to 7 years, if not longer, depending how long he wants to ultimately keep coaching here. And so with that comes a little bit of timing where Ryan he was pretty young in his early 40s when they hired Urban. You remember how old he was, Shark? Was he?
I'm looking right now.
50s? So I think he was in his early 50s. Tress is in his early 70s now, and they hired him in 2001.
I think Tress was 48 when he got the job.
Yeah, so it starts to come down to timing where, you're going to hire a head coach who's in his mid-50s. Eddie and Luke will both in 5 to 7 years be guys who are in their mid-50s. And not saying that you couldn't get it done, but you start looking at the runway afterwards, like, are they going to coach till they're 65? Because at Ohio State, I don't think you're hiring coaches to be there for 5 years. Hopefully those guys are decade-long coaches. The shortest tenured coach that Ohio State has had since World War II is...
Was it Earl Bruce?
Earl, 9 years.
Earl. Well, we're not counting
Urban.
Urban?
Oh, yeah, Urban,
right,
7. By the way,
that's
Bob,
my point.
Urban was born in 1964 and got the Ohio State job in 2012.
48.
So he was 48,
40, yeah.
although he was probably, he got it right after the 11 season. Probably 47 when he got hired.
Yeah, so 47, 48. That sounds about right. Ryan was, a handful of years younger than that. So I just don't – so much of life sometimes comes down to timing of, what's open and where you're at in your career. I'm not saying that, Fickell being at Wisconsin eliminates him. I'm thinking more the point is that once you get one of those other jobs, depending on what the job looks like here, would you be in the position to be able to take it? And either have you had enough success, or are you getting to a point where maybe you're a little bit older, and is that what you're looking for in your coach at Ohio State?
Well, and you think
do you
about
want a guy?
You think about Eddie George will be 52 in September. If he's at BG for 4 years, now he's 56 looking for a power 4 job, potential power 4 job. That's, you still got a good decade, but it's not like you're in your 40s.
Yeah, and so that's the thing with Eddie. Like him and Fick are about the same age.
Yeah,
I mean they played together, so I'm pretty certain that they're right in that wheelhouse. And so in 4 years, I mean you guys are in your mid 50s, and not that you couldn't do it, but we always keep talking about this coach is young, he relates well to players, and Eddie and Fick both have that young feel. They were both former players, but like time has a way of being tough and like trying to establish yourself at a new school in your mid 50s is a little bit tougher. And there are places that would do it. I just don't know that if Ohio State, with how they've operated over the years, if that's the path they would take. I guess that's the point. I mean, and not saying that they couldn't do it, because both of those guys I think are pretty tremendous coaches. It's just, is that the way that Ohio State would want to go at that point in time? Because there's probably other viable candidates that they would look at.
Bobby, you played engineer early. Now I want you to play psychiatrist. I had a dream last night. Ryan Day invited some media members to some special celebration thing. There were other guys from the dispatch there and myself, and everyone got their picture taken with Ryan Day and the national championship trophy. And they would like print them out right there and give them to you. And everybody else's picture was perfect. Mine, that we tried it like 6 times, was blurry every time. How do you analyze that?
Who am I, Joseph over here?
I just figured you might have an idea, hypotheses, if you will. What you think that? And Ross Bjork at one point showed up with one of the Heisman trophies, and we tried taking that picture, and every picture of me was blurry. Everyone else crystal clear.
Maybe that means that your worthiness with the picture wasn't there. Like they weren't able to document that in time. Maybe that's because you didn't feel worthy of it, or maybe it's because you're actually not worthy of it. I'm not sure. I heard that there was actually 7 bales of grain that bowed down to my bales of grain there, and then your cows bowed down to my cows in that as well.
That's thank God I got an appointment with a therapist on Wednesday. I can maybe dissect that. By the way, this will be the only show you hear a reference to Tupac. Tupac once said, "Hit him up." We're going to hit you up with quick hitters next. Morning Juice.
Hey there, Jane Lynch here. You want to hear something funny? Too bad. You want to hear something uplifting that will inspire you? Good. Because today, I want to talk to you about Direct Relief, a humanitarian organization that does seriously good work when it counts. Fires, hurricanes, earthquakes. When disaster strikes, Direct Relief immediately shows up with medicines, medical supplies, and everything doctors and nurses need to save lives. Let's ship her out! Every day across the United States and around the world, they're making an enormous difference. If someone needs help, Direct Relief helps. No politics, no red tape. Hey, what you doing over there?
Oh, I'm packing insulin for kids with diabetes.
See, every box here is literally a lifeline for someone in critical need. So check them out at directrelief.org. You might just bring a smile to someone's face.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
America's hunters and target shooters, along with firearm, ammunition, and archery manufacturers, have invested more than $46 billion to help state fish and wildlife agencies manage and protect wildlife and wildlands across America. For more information, visit outdoorstewards.org.
Once there was a man who couldn't stand.
A mom who couldn't wait.
A scientific community that said it couldn't be done.
And then you.
And then I. And then we.
Brought neuromuscular disease into screaming color with the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
For 75 years, our voices have thundered through the halls of Congress.
We've willed the impossible into existence.
We've pushed the science,
Raised the funds.
Shifted the narrative.
And transformed the reality of life with neuromuscular diseases.
For 75 years, we've built communities together.
established the field of neuromuscular medicine,
and made it thrive.
Call that a legacy.
Call it impact.
Call it momentum.
Just call it ours.
Because it's the generations of community heroes that give MDA the strength we have today.
And until neuromuscular disease is a thing of the past, you couldn't stop us if you tried.
Join us and celebrate 75 years of breakthroughs at MDA75.org.
Bobby played for the Dallas Cowboys. Tito wears assless chaps.
I'm dead sexy.
You're locked into Morning Juice.
All right, Morning Juice, Tito, Shark, and the non-static Bobby Carpenter joining us here from Dayton, Ohio. Let's do some quick hitters.
Morning Juice presents Quick Hitters.
Sponsored by Dr. Mark Levy. If you're snoring and not sleeping, call Dr. Mark Levy today at 1-800-MORE-SLEEP.
Good morning, Shark.
Good morning, Tito. It is a great day to be alive. You know, after the Suns went 36-46 while missing the playoffs this season, Kevin Durant wanted out of Phoenix, and the Suns were more than willing to accommodate him. KD had 3 preferred landing spots: Miami, San Antonio, and Houston. And Houston it is. The Suns have agreed to trade Kevin Durant to the Rockets for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. Tito, the Rockets will be Durant's 5th franchise during his NBA career.
Isn't that amazing? And he's got a 15-time All-Star. He had a good year last year. I think he averaged 26 points a game. The 10th pick is really not that. This isn't a deep draft, I don't think. They're going to get some kind of stud at the 10th pick there.
And second-round picks are worthless.
It's five
second-round picks is nothing.
It's 5 darts at the European world. You know what I mean? That's what it's like. 5 chance you take these guys. You're not going to come and play right away and just hope you hit on somebody. If you go back and look, and you can go on basketballreference.com and find this, you can look at each draft and see how many NBA games guys played. And there's so many second-round picks from overseas that never sniffed an NBA court for whatever reason. Phoenix had to make the deal. Houston's damn dangerous now. They've got a great starting 5. I wonder now if this will force San Antonio to be very aggressive in going out to get Giannis.
What is Kevin Durant's legacy at this point, you think, in his career? Like, how are we going to remember him in 10 years?
I think he'll be remembered as one of the greatest scorers of all time. But if you're in the camp of ripping LeBron for chasing rings, that's exactly what Kevin did. He only got his rings by going to a super team with the Warriors and forming that super team there. So I think he's a great scorer. I think he's a fun player to watch. He got a lot of talent, but I don't put him in like my top 15 of all time.
I think he's one of the best scorers of all time, but the last 5 years of his career, to say that they've been weird, I think puts it mildly. You know, I can hardly visualize him playing with the Suns. I know he had the torn Achilles. I mean, did he play for Brooklyn too?
Yeah, they tried to do a super team there. Him and James Harden and Kyrie Irving all in Brooklyn.
Right. I mean, like, you start thinking about this, and you're like, remember, like, he bounced around. They just tried to pair people up.
Yeah.
And it never really worked. Like, the only time it ever worked was when he went to a team that already had an established nucleus. And I'm not here to throw shade at Kevin Durant, because I think he's one of the best scorers all time in NBA history. But it just seems like any team where he's been a core piece, that he was like the block that they built around, has really struggled outside of Oklahoma City, where he had Westbrook and Harden. And that seemed to work. And then when he left there, it was like he became, a drifter.
Yeah.
It's just like, the homeless man, just the shanty town, going from place to place, riding on a train. Like, he's good. But when I think of the best players in the NBA right now, he doesn't come to mind. Because hell, I can hardly remember who he's playing for half the time.
When I look at OKC, that team, how great it could have been if they would have stayed together, it makes me think a lot of the Penny and Shaq years with Orlando. Like when Anthony Hardaway and Shaq and they also had Horace Grant there that got as a free agent. And I thought, with Nick Anderson was on the team as well. But I thought that team was going to compete for championships for a long time, and then Shaq leaves and it breaks up. And in OKC, they had the finals appearance that 1 year, and then they break things up there. And Durant had to go to Golden State to win his titles.
When Vikings quarterbacks, I'm sorry, Bob.
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's just bizarre, man. I mean, he's like kind of the face of like the new NBA of what I think has turned people off to it. Go ahead, Sean.
When Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold became a free agent this offseason, it appeared that Las Vegas was one of the potential landing spots because the Raiders were in need of a quarterback after Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder, and Aiden O'Connell combined to go 4-13 last season. But Tom Brady is now a minority owner of the Raiders, and according to The Athletic, Brady did not want Darnold. So instead, Vegas acquired Geno Smith from Seattle, and Darnold then signed a free agent contract with the Seahawks. It proves, if this story's true, Bobby, that Brady already has the ear of Mark Davis.
Well, I think he had the ear of Mark Davis when he got there, and he was a big piece of this. And I don't think he's going to be involved in like the day-to-day and the minutia of the football decisions. But big stuff like that, coaches and quarterbacks, he's probably getting consulted on quite a bit. And I understand why. And I would be curious to kind of, in a private moment, hear why Tom didn't like Sam Darnold and why he was not a proponent of his. But, if you would rather have Geno Smith as a stopgap and then try to find somebody for the future, if he thinks that's the way to go, and they did it, I mean, obviously Mark Davis is going to listen to him, and I think that that's part of the reason he was brought on.
And I wonder if Pete Carroll also would prefer to have Geno Smith, who he'd coached before. But for me, there's, Geno Smith and Sam Darnold are very similar in the fact that inconsistent throughout their careers. Had some good moments, had some good seasons, but inconsistent. You don't know what you're getting. And so I got to believe, like when you got two people, you're not sure what you're getting in either one for sure, Bob. I think that the familiarity of Geno Smith with Pete Carroll probably weighed into it. And I don't know. I wonder how much influence that had and how much, Chip Kelly, what he had to say about it, if anything like that. Because I would think they'd consult him also in Vegas, right? I mean, wouldn't you, if you're going to talk about bringing a quarterback, you'd have those conversations.
Oh, he's definitely consulting Tom about that. And like you said, coaches and the head coach and quarterback and big decisions like Mark Davis, they brought Tom in to be able to do that and give them that level of insight. And also it helps give them some credibility and back it up a little bit, because I think when most people kind of look at Mark Davis as he's kind of a joke, whereas Tom Brady obviously has a lot of rapport and has been the most successful quarterback of all time. So people are going to give him a little bit more leeway than you probably give Mark. Well, Marco,
yes. When he was head coach of the Browns, Eric Mangini had to deal with the off-the-field issues of Josh Gordon. Last week, Mangini appeared on Colin Cowherd's show and said you can't compare Shedeur Sanders' speeding tickets to Gordon's drug problems. Mangini said Shedur's issues shouldn't impact his spot on the Browns roster, and defended Sanders by saying it's the first time he's been away from Father Dion and that there's going to be a couple hiccups here and there. Now, there are some who say that the speeding tickets 2 and 12 days throws up some red flags about his character. There are others, Tito, who say, it's just speeding tickets. Move on. Nothing to see here.
The tragedy that happened this weekend here, over there in Dublin this weekend, I hope that, and I know Sanders, there's no one, he didn't cause an accident and didn't do anything as far as like that on that level. But the fact he's speeding like that, it makes it likely, or a greater chance of something like that happening, I guess, if you're driving 101 miles an hour like that. I hope this is a wake-up call for Shedeur Sanders and other players too, because if after what we had happen here locally and after what happened like with Henry Ruggs and things like that, if that doesn't make you want to make changes in your behaviors, then you're never going to get it.
So, people talk about character issues that I look at more as maturity. Making you make a mistake, you make the second one again. All right. Like if you're making it a third time, I'm going to really question just your ability to learn from your mistakes. And so it's more of a maturity thing that I see. I wouldn't call it a character issue, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. I think it's more of a maturity thing. And, you know, there's been a lot of stuff, as you just pointed out, that I've documented here with the excessive speeds. And this is a problem when you have young people, and, you know, when you're young, you feel like you're invincible and you can go do anything. And unfortunately, that's not the case. And there are consequences for it. Now, he hasn't had to suffer any of the dire consequences, and hopefully he doesn't, because he doesn't make that decision again. I don't view this in the same light as like Josh Gordon, because what Shedor's, like I said, it's more of a maturity thing, and none of that I think would impact the play on his field. People with substance abuse problems, like that impacts their work and their ability to perform, especially when you have a physically demanding job like playing in the NFL. So those to me are kind of two separate issues.
So Bobby, when when Pete Rose was still alive and kicking, trying to get back into baseball, he offered to go around and speak to minor league teams and things like that, go around baseball and speak about the mistakes he made and how it's important they avoid the mistakes he made and learn from his mistakes. So, and Henry Ruggs did the thing with last week when he went out and had, for a special release situation, he talked to former inmates that were adjusting to life on the outside. Were there former players or people that came and spoke to you guys at the NFL level about something like that? Like, I made these mistakes. Did that happen at your level or not?
Oh, they'd always bring people in that would do that. We had my guy Juicy, Nate Newton, come in when we were in Dallas. I mean, his story of him running weed in the NFL is the greatest. He's sitting there because he got busted twice.
Yeah.
It was a similar situation. And he equated, he goes, I always wanted to be the best football player I could be. He goes, I just always wanted to be the best at everything. So if I was going to sell weed, I was going to be the best weed seller there you were going to find. He told us a story. He's like, he got busted. I think it was after the second time, the second time, because I'm talking to them. I'm talking to John Madden, and I think it would have been NBC at the time, who was having Sunday night football.
Right.
So I'm talking to John Madden, potentially want to do some Sunday night football, and they wanted me to come in and do some sidelines and do some stuff with him. He goes, the next phone call I literally pick up is to the guy delivering me the dope. And then we're going to make this run. Because that was what my day was. Talking to John Madden about doing Sunday night football and then talking about running 300 pounds of drugs through the United States. It was a real Smokey and the Bandit situation. Then I don't know if you remember, and I think I was in the league at the time, maybe just out, but Chris Carter went and spoke when they used to do the rookie symposium, because this is what the symposium was like. Hey, welcome to the NFL. Don't do this stuff. Do this stuff. Here's some people that have made mistakes. Don't listen to them. And Chris Carter was up there, and he talked about having a fall guy. You got to have your buddy with you who will take
the test.
Fall guy. I'm like, what is this? What is going on right here? Like, is this what we're really talking about? Like, maybe we should be talking about making good decisions, not making sure that you have someone who will be able to take the rap for you when you get hemmed up.
Bobby, the last 4 digits in my cell phone number spell out the word bong. Do you know anybody with a dispensary or something like that, or if Nate knew somebody, if there's somebody out there who might want to buy that from me, so they can say the last 4 numbers and their contact information is bong?
I mean, I could probably make some phone calls. I don't know if people are really calling to order weed anymore. I don't know.
So I missed my window.
You may have missed that window. Like, that's probably more like the 80s when they'd flash that 800 number up, early 90s on the bottom of the screen. Right now, people are probably just searching. Well, the place that you exist a lot, the back pages of Craigslist. Go in there, you can find that good content that you're looking for.
They took the singles off Craigslist, though. I think that you can't meet people on there anymore. I think it's all just selling stuff now. Yeah, I think they. I don't look. I'm not saying I looked.
Well, do you think that that's due, like, to any legal stuff, or
Probably.
do you think that was just more due now to the fact that with some of the dating apps, the Twitters, or the Tinders, the Grinders, the things like that, that you don't need to get on there anymore, and there's other vehicles that maybe are more efficient at getting that done?
Not that you have a lot of free time on your hands, but you have free time. Go watch the old video dating videos, like when people go into like a dating service and they record a video of there's some great ones out there of people, and trying to sell themselves, and then you go out there and try to match them up with somebody. That's it for the quick hitters. Coming up next, the lawsuit was filed that will be interesting to monitor. We'll talk about that next. Morning Juice.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
Nathan has taught me to embrace the moment. Age-wise, I'm in my late 60s. I'm old enough to be his grandfather. Will he be embarrassed to acknowledge me as his dad? I think the most important thing we can do is let them know that they're safe, that they're valued and cared for and loved, and that they're important.
I knew I wanted to be adopted by him because of how he taught me to be the person who I am today. And it's coming from a dad that didn't expect to become a dad, and I feel very proud to be his son.
That was what he needed, and he was what I needed. Every day is full of new opportunities. That's what it's been about, realizing the simple things that it takes to make such a huge difference in these kids' lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
You know a thing or two about the moments in life that matter. You've seized those moments to embrace joy, accomplish great things, and build meaningful relationships. Is it time now to sit back and reflect on a life well lived? Maybe. Or maybe there's more to be done. Maybe this is the most important moment you've encountered yet. By volunteering with AmeriCorps Seniors, you can seize the moment, lend a hand, and get back more than you give. We connect you to local volunteer organizations with opportunities that fit your schedule and match your interests. Through AmeriCorps Seniors, you can support people in times of need and make your community stronger. You can become a companion to your older neighbors, brightening their days with friendship. You can even become a mentor for young people, serving as a role model and enriching their lives. Are you ready to seize your moment? Visit AmeriCorps.gov/yourmoment and get started today.
I'm Shanola Hampton. Every day, millions of people face hunger. Today, I will share with you some of their experiences. I'm stuck between paying for medications or paying for food. John from Maine. After paying my bills, I can buy groceries. It's sad to say, food comes last. Alice from Oregon. I thought pantries were for less fortunate people, but anybody could be less fortunate in a day or even a second. Claire from Virginia. The Feeding America network of food banks helps provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. No one should have to worry where their next meal will come from. Together, we can end hunger. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Proud to be your go-to sports addiction.
WBNS, WBNS FM, HD3 Columbus.
The Fan 3, Ohio sports destination. Tito has had 2 wives. They've both been named Heather. If you know someone named Heather, please warn her. This is Morning Juice.
All right, Morning Juice, second hour of the program. Thanks for tuning in. Bobby, I saw that Wisconsin has filed a lawsuit against the U over the Badgers' former player Xavier Lucas, who went to Miami, and he wanted the Badgers to put him in the portal, and it was too late and all of this, and the Badgers said, no, we're not going to do this. He had deals signed with Wisconsin with NIL stuff, and he ends up going out anyway to Miami, did not go through the portal, did not technically put his name in the portal. He just withdrew from Wisconsin, enrolled at Miami, and now Wisconsin is suing Miami for tampering. And I get the sense, Bob, that we're going to see other cases like this pop up until they get everything completely figured out, all the different scenarios. I don't think this is something they planned for when they were putting everything together with the portal and with NIL and things like that. I wonder if they just weren't prepared for something like this happening.
Well, because they have the portal time. I read through this, and Schleggs and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday, or just having this conversation about it. And it's interesting to kind of see what's going on now, because we had the portal. I guess we missed the portal window, and reportedly his dad isn't doing well, I guess, and that was part of the reason he wanted to get closer to home, is what he kind of said. Now, I don't know if it's how much of that is part of the reason he's going down there, or the fact that Miami just offered him more money and maybe a better NIL situation. And that's, I don't want to try to question the young man's motives, but trying to kind of balance those two pieces of information of like which is more true in this situation. Is it the fact that, yeah, you want to go home due to family stuff? Because if that's the case, I get it. There's a way to do that, though, and there's a portal situation, and he could have gotten in the portal in a timely manner. Now, did Wisconsin, could they prevent him, could stop him from doing that? I don't know. But I know the timeline was that he missed it.
Yeah.
And then he just is like, okay, well, I'm just going to go down and go there anyway. I'm just going to enroll like I'm a normal student, which
student athlete,
you can do as a normal student. Well, you can do as a normal student.
Right.
But there are rules around transferring in these different things. And I know that we don't think that there's any rules at all anymore, but they still have those portal windows for a reason.
And then as far as avoiding this type of thing, is it too simple to say, look, if you leave and you still have, we've paid you money, if you leave this way, whatever it is, the business, the NIL, whatever it is, you've got to pay that money back. Is that too simplistic, or is that a possibility?
No, it's not. And especially if you took money and these guys start getting paid in the off season, and this is the problem with two portal windows. You could go somewhere after the season, get paid, take some money, and get paid all, through that next portal window, and then transfer after spring ball. And so you took money and you never even played a game.
Right.
You didn't do anything of substance to be able to earn that. In the NFL, dude, the offseason, they pay you $500 a week. You're not getting paid anything. It's for OTAs and stuff like that. You get paid for playing football games in season. And so they've got to figure that out of how that's going to work. And I don't blame Wisconsin for filing a lawsuit. He jeopardized our contract. He broke the contract. So we should be able to seek some restitution for that. And I'm curious to see how this case is going to go and how it's going to look, because this is the one thing that they're trying to avoid. And they want to get everybody to go through arbitration so they can get out of the courts. There was a song back in the day that was "Get Out of My Dreams and Get Into My Car."
Billy Ocean.
And I love Billy Ocean and Caribbean Queen as well.
That's the best one.
And I'm saying let's get out of the courts and get onto the court or the field or whatever the deal is, because that's what people want to talk about with college football. Not one school suing another school or suing a former player about breach of contract.
I would in this situation here, I would say you got to pay your money back and you got to sit out for a year. And I know that won't happen, but I'm like, that would be fair to me because if they're going to sit here and still call, they're employees, whatever, they're student athletes still, and a student can do this. A student can leave and go to another school. A student can. Him being a student athlete, I think that should be the penalty for something like that, is if you're going to do it, you got to pay back any money we've already given you, and you've got to sit out for a season.
Well, it's no, because people say, well, coaches can leave. Yeah, but coaches also have buyouts.
Yes.
That's the thing. They've got to pay it back, or the school that's bringing them in has to pay it. But there are dollars that are exchanged when that ultimately happens. And so if you want to do this stuff, and play in the big world, the big boy world, and act like, an adult, this is how it works. And there's consequences to your actions. And so, yeah, there should be some sort of buyouts when players leave. If we're going to pay you, then when you leave, you should have to, same as a coach, you should have to have a buyout on the other side of that.
And you're naive if you think not you, I'm saying the general public. Naive if you don't think tampering happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. How do you monitor that?
Right.
In the NFL, there's a little more plausible deniability because you have people share agents, and agents are talking about different things all the time to different teams. And so sometimes they may bring up a hypothetical situation around someone with their client of, hey, well, I was talking to him about player A because he's actually a free agent, even though player B, I represent him as well. And, he's maybe unhappy and looking to get traded, or, he'll be a free agent next year. What would you be willing to do with that? His market value, because I'm trying to redo a deal with his current team. All that stuff happens all the time. The thing with this is, they talk to their coaches, high school coaches, when you got in the portal, they could talk to you, but how do you know to get in? How are you getting lured in there? And, you can contact, it used to be hard to get a hold of people, but now via social media, like that stuff's much easier now than ever before.
Switching gears a little here, Bobby, I saw this on CBS Sports earlier in the weekend where it was an article by David Cobb where he was grading the first-year college football coaches' 2025 rosters. And the top two he had on there were North Carolina and West Virginia. Rich Rod's back to where he's comfortable again in West Virginia, where he's had success before. I don't know why I sounded like Bugs Bunny or something like that when I said Elmer Fudd when I said West Virginia. But anyway, and Belichick, obviously, North Carolina, famously headed there. Which coach do you think has a better chance of having early success?
Okay, well, as we get into this, and success is a subjective term, what do you define success as, Thidoff?
I would say, top 5 in their conference.
So then it comes down to how good the rest of the conference is. I think the Big 12 is much more wide open. The ACC, you obviously have Clemson there at the top. It was playing pretty well. SMU probably should be good.
Miami.
Will Florida State rebound and get back there? Miami, I think you have a pretty firm 3 with Clemson, Miami, and then Clemson, Miami,
SMU,
and then SMU. Florida State is a little bit more ambiguous. Louisville was pretty good last year.
Yeah.
I think it might be a little harder. I think if you tell me, I think both teams will win 8 games this year. That's not getting you the playoff, but I think both will win at least 8. I feel like the bottom end of the ACC is not good. Big 12 probably a little deeper throughout, but it's also a little more scattershot too.
I'm curious to see how Belichick. I know he had some years of mediocrity, obviously with the Browns, and then with at the tail end of his career with the Patriots, some tough years.
Obviously with the Browns. I mean, how many people when they bring up Bill Belichick bring up him coaching with the Browns? That's what you lead with.
If this was July 2nd, I wouldn't have led with the Browns, Bobby. Just so you know. But if it before July 1st, I'm going to bring it up because Sharks right there.
Art Modell's birthday.
Art Modell's 100th birthday. Sharks wearing a Modell pin on his shirt, but. How was Belichick? How do you think he'll respond to if he has to mediocrity? Because he's had so much success as a coach. I got to believe it'll be tough for him to probably lose a couple of games against schools that might not be as good as North Carolina. Or without prestigious North Carolina, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, how he handle mediocrity in the NFL? Good teams lose to bad teams all the time because the difference in there is the margin is so slim. So I don't know if that will impact him as much as you think.
Yeah.
Like the wins and losses, I don't think impact Bill and his psychology of what he views himself or how hard he's going to work or all those things. Like he's a guy who I don't think that impacts him at all. The question will be like the public perception with the recruiting and how's he going to be able to handle that? Like, cause when you come in, you have a lot of buzz, and he's the NFL guy that's coming in there and all of his Super Bowls and everything he's done. Then if you're struggling, are you still able to connect and have that recruiting buzz and be able to get guys to listen to if they think that you're not succeeding there? And I don't think you're going to probably see that unless he went 4-8, but that to me is the bigger thing, how you can control the narrative around your program to still be able to pitch that and perceive it as a program on the rise.
They host Clemson. They avoid Miami and Florida State this year. So that probably bodes well for him, at least in that regard. They're at Syracuse. Syracuse was decent last year with Kyle McCord, who's now gone, obviously. But so potential there for that. Bobby, I'm curious, as I'm looking at you there on the screen, I don't know if that's a towel around your neck or a cape.
That's cold. I'm right beside the mini split here, and I'm just getting hammered by this air conditioning. So, yes.
I was hoping it was a cape, not a cape.
It's not a cape. Listen, not all heroes wear capes, Thidoff. You always got to know that. And I've never been a big cape guy. I mean, I think Batman looks sweet in his cape. Superman looks sweet in his cape. But the problem is, the cape can also be a hindrance to you in battle. So I've never really been a huge cape guy. Just probably something more for the evildoers to have something to grab.
So if you go to a meeting with somebody, random person you're just meeting for the first time, and they show up in a cape, which are you less likely to trust that person?
Am I at like a Comic-Con event?
I know. Let's say there's some company says, Bobby, we'd love for you to sponsor our product, whatever it is, oil filters, I don't know, and we want to meet with you, and the guy comes in to meet with you the first time, he's wearing a cape. Does that make you less likely? Does it change your opinion of your? I got to believe it would probably, it'd probably turn you off.
Oh, I think it would just open up another line of questioning: do you always wear a cape?
Right.
When did you start wearing a cape? What is the reasoning for wearing a cape? Have you ever seen an adult wear a cape in public that isn't part of a costume?
No, I don't think I have. I did see one of those like staged medieval fight things going on over there on Riverside. Yeah, over there. There was one of those going on.
Is that going on
there.
this weekend?
I don't know. I'm saying I drove by and saw it before. It's like from the movie Role Models, where those guys were out there kind of role playing and doing that kind of thing. And I saw that, and I really wanted to stop and ask somebody, how do you feel about this? Like, really, what led you to this?
Well, why wouldn't you just stop and, what is it called, live action role play or something?
Yeah.
Or the LAR. Beam knew all the terms for all this stuff. You're going to have to learn these things off. I don't know how Beam knew about this, but he always had all of the nomenclature down that he would fire out there. I don't know why you just wouldn't pop up a lawn chair and watch. I mean, it's like watching a play. Watching a movie in front of you.
I probably should have. Because I didn't want to come across as like a gawker. First of all, I didn't want to come across as somebody who seemed interested.
You transition. A gawker is someone that's like walking by and looking and probably with some level of intrigue. But if you just pop the chair out and sit down, you transition from becoming a gawker to becoming a fan or an observer. Then they have a following. By the way, speaking of gawking, we were driving back from New Albany, that tournament we were talking about with Bill, and there was a car. I mean, people have probably seen this and whatever. There was a car that I don't know how it got to where it was, but it was fully engulfed in flames, black smoke bellowing out of there. I mean, it probably happened 3 minutes before we were driving 161 right there at 270. And I was like, what is that smoke coming from? I mean, this thing, the fire trucks weren't even there yet. It had to be within 5 minutes. And I have no idea what was inside of it because it looked like it was a tire fire going on right on the side of the highway on 270 and 161 over by on the east side. It was crazy town.
Yeah, that's I would get by that car as quickly as I possibly could. Get out of the range.
That was gawking. There's people going to get in a wreck trying to figure out what the heck was going on the other side of the road. Now that is gawking. You sitting down with a lawn chair to watch some adult humans act out some medieval characters. I mean, I view that as entertainment.
That would just see, Bobby. It's like who's stranger, the people doing it or the people watching the people do it? That's what I thought.
Is it the fool? Who's the fool? The fool or the fool who follows? I mean, that's the question there, Obi-Wan.
That's true.
Shark loves Star Wars. So do you like Star Wars, Thedoff?
Love Star Wars. I do. I don't like not every movie. Obviously, I didn't like the reboot when they did the episodes 1, 2, and 3 when they released them after 4, 5, and 6.
That wasn't a reboot. That's
another reboot. You're right. Yeah, no, not reboot, but they did the prequels then, I guess. Yeah. But I loved Rogue One, the movie. I enjoyed the Andor series. By the way, we're 2 episodes into the Bin Laden thing. Heather and I watched it this weekend.
It's good.
Yeah,
American Manhunt.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to watch episode 3 today, I think, while the kids are off at camps. It's really good. Really, I
told you.
One of the recommendations, you recommend movies and shows all the time, and I rarely listen to you just because I tell you I don't have time. But no, I watched that though, and it has lived up to what you and Shark said.
You need to watch the next one is Surviving Ohio State. That needs to get in your.
No, Bobby, I can't watch that. I don't think I can.
I did a lot of research this weekend. I was talking to people who were there during the era and talking about some of the different things that happened. And because I want people that were a part of it to watch it to see what their thoughts are on it. because they ask me, they're like, well, how did it come off? I go, well, I don't know everything about it. And I hadn't really done a lot of research. So I was starting to kind of talk to some people who were there during that time and understand it. I go, it came off, I wouldn't say as like a crazy hit piece. Probably a lot of it was factually accurate. Was there some embellishment? Maybe. But that's what I was just trying to get to the bottom of, to try to understand everything. Like, because Clooney produced it.
Right.
And I think if maybe the university would have handled it better, it would have never gotten, I mean, better, not in the present time, but afterwards, handled it better. You probably don't ever get to this point with where something like that is being made.
I'm going to say something very shallow, Bob. Part of the reason I don't want to watch it, I don't want to hate Ohio State. And I'm afraid I will.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if watching it gave me the feeling of hating Ohio State. It was a function I looked at as, well, I mean, there's a lot of imperfections when you start talking about people, and also when you're talking about, big organizations of how they operate.
Right.
And yeah, they could have handled it better. They could have done a lot of things better. I don't know if, when I looked at that, it made me want to hate Ohio State, though, by any stretch.
That's just my fear. But you already know I don't like watching things make me uncomfortable. I feel like, did you watch it, Shark, or not?
No,
I feel like it would make me very uncomfortable and depressed.
Listen, I mean, it's just part of the story, man. Yeah. Like, it make you uncomfortable and depressed. I mean, I've watched a lot of movies that at the end I'm like to just throw myself in the middle of 315. I was like, that's terrible. But I mean, they just have some brutal endings sometimes. Beam calls those the trudge, and then you die movie, where you're hoping for some redemptive qualities,
right,
and some positive outcome at the end that just never comes. It never manufactures itself or manifests at the end, and then it's over, and you're left with a pit of sorrow and despair. So, yeah, that might be part of it, but I don't think you'll get this feeling with this one.
Just give me unicorns, rainbows, and Ohio State national championships, and I'm a happy guy. Coming up next, we will talk. We'll hear from somebody who's won a national championship. Jim Trestle was on Rothman and Ice. Got a couple of nice cuts from that. We're going to play for you next. Morning Juice.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You know what hope is? Hope is action. Carving a path forward, even when it's hard.
And kids who still know how to dream. They're the best pathfinders of all.
So at Child Fund, hope means helping millions of children living in poverty worldwide to grow up healthy, educated, skilled, and so all those good things can come true for them, safe.
And that means safe at home, safe at school, and safe online.
Hope means walking this path together, all of us. Because when we work together, we can do so much more.
That's right. Hope includes you.
Child Fund, because we need each other.
To learn how Child Fund works with children in 23 countries to help them achieve their full potential, visit childfund.org. That's childfund.org.
Around the world, Children International and friends like you are giving children in poverty a chance to grow and thrive, to be healthy, to succeed in school, and achieve great things. How do we do it? In the best way possible, by helping ensure access to healthcare, nutrition, and educational opportunities. And most importantly, by empowering youths and their families to get out of poverty and into employment through life skills, computer, and job training. The very tools they need to break the cycle of poverty and build futures full of promise. Because every child deserves a chance to realize their full and best potential. Learn more about how Children International is empowering children and families by going to children.org today. That's children.org.
Tito invited the new Russian family who moved in down the street to watch Rocky IV. It did not go well. I must break you. This is Morning Juice.
Kind of a knife twisted my back on Friday there, Bobby. The same event that I was at with Rothman hosting live a couple years back. He had, Anthony always does things, these events for animals and animal shelters and whatnot. And Trestle was on. That's the famous time when he called me ice. And he was on this time again with, this time it was Scotty Vegas with them. So still awaiting the apology. But here's something Trestle.
The apology. You should feel honored that he called you ice and actually tried to learn your name.
I've dropped a lot of subtle hints to you about, and some not so subtle, that I need you to somehow facilitate this apology. You haven't done it yet. Hopefully we've got a lot of time to work together to where maybe someday I'll wear you down and you will do it, so it's not awkward for me. Here is Trestle on Rothman and Ice.
If you have good leadership, you have people looking at the full body of work. And yes, we didn't win the Michigan game, but you look at that full body of work this year, and really since he's been there, Ryan's done a great job. And, so it is a different world right now. But, if you really think about it, our last 3 national championships were after great suffering. Mm-hmm. Think about our seniors in 2002. They'd been 6-6, 8-4, and 7-5. They'd had enough. You think about Urban's coaching change, no bowl game, lost their quarterback, lost to Virginia Tech early in the year, lost another quarterback. Suffering does something for you. The suffering, with us losing the rivalry game, there's some real positive to everything not going perfectly.
I thought that was interesting, Bobby. It's spot on. I didn't think about the fact that they came back from, the suffering thing, each one of those championships, the ones they talked about there, but very true. The fact, look, 2001 wasn't a great year for Ohio State under Trestle. A good year, but not a great year. What do you think? Fantastic. And then they come through and win like you guys did. And then the stuff with Urban, and then obviously the thing with Ryan Day with what that team went through this past season.
What's amazing is I was literally having that conversation with Joanna Freeman last night at the event for Jordan, their little social before. And Marcus is up there talking the front. I hadn't seen Joanna in probably, it's been 10 to 15 years. And just talking about all the different things. And, she was talking how like her heart went out to Nina, during everything that they've gone through. And when you're a coach or a player and you go through those hardships, there's a certain understanding you have and an ability to empathize with other people when they're going through the same thing and seeing that. And, we started talking Northern Illinois, and she's like, if we probably don't lose that game, we probably don't go on the run that we have. I'm like, it's the same thing with Ohio State losing to Michigan. I don't know if maybe you do, but I don't believe the team is the same, and they probably don't have that same conviction with each other if they wouldn't have lost that game. And so the shared suffering builds something inside of you, and it helps create something and maybe discover something in there that you didn't even know was there. And that's why I think Tress was talking about that, is when you go through those hardships, it allows you to get tough. Everybody in this world always talks about toughness and how that's something that you want. It's a admirable trait. Well, the reality is, to get tough, you have to do tough things. And tough things aren't, by definition, going to feel good. And they're going to stink. It's going to be brutal at times. But then when you come out the other side of it, you're better for it. And so that, I think, is what Tress was trying to articulate there, and did a masterful job of. understanding the sufferings and how tough it is and what that can do for you as a person and as a program on the whole.
I want to play this next cut from Trestle also about the coaching, the extension Ryan Day. Here it is.
I'm not surprised he got extended. I would, if someone asked me my opinion, I would have said absolutely you extend him. One of the great young coaches, in the country, and I think in this day and age, I think you have to be really careful about when you change your coaching staff, because you can get a lot of exodus of players. It might take a little bit longer to get your own culture.
So, Bob, I wonder if – I know that Ryan Day finishing the season the way he did, winning the Natty like that, fans were off his back. You know what I mean? Fans were, clamoring obviously what they were doing after the Michigan game as far as the, losing his job and whatnot, wanting to make changes. And I hope Day's here for 20 more years. But do you think fans now?
Gosh, I put him at like 65.
I'm fine with that. Keep him here. Hey, keep him here. The only way I get rid of him is he punches the Clemson player. Other than that, he stays. They
didn't fire Woody because he hit that kid.
I know they didn't, but it was more than. I mean, it was obviously other things in the works. They had been mediocre for a couple of years. But do you think that Ohio State fans now, when the season starts up, if they have a rough stretch, if they have a bad game, a narrow win against Team Blood. Yeah.
A rough stretch. What does a rough stretch look like for Ohio State?
Let's say they lose to Texas and don't look very good. All right. Okay. Let's say they drop another game later in the season to somebody out, Illinois, whoever it's going to be. Do you think Ohio State fans will jump back on the let's get rid of them? How can you lose that game or whatever? Or do you think people will be more patient now and say, let's wait and see how it plays out? Because last season, a good chunk of people, some even here, were calling for Day's head after the Michigan game. And I was of the belief, let it play out, let's see what happens. Do you think that what happened last season will change fans' patience level if things don't go, if they're not undefeated in the regular season and lose a game they shouldn't lose?
I love that that's the standard now. And that's what Ryan said, win at Ohio State.
Yeah.
The standard is to win every game, especially the last one. And I mean, it's kind of tongue in cheek and a joke a little bit, but there is some element of truth to that. And success begets expectations. And the amount of success that they've had has been astronomical to the point where, if you're telling me that a 10-2 season is a rough stretch, which
no, I don't think it is. I'm saying the fans though. Go ahead.
How would you define a rough stretch? And that's what, like you said, they lose to Texas, don't look good, and then they lose another game somewhere at the end of the season. That would put you at 10-2.
Right.
I mean, and maybe it's a disjointed 10-2 where it doesn't feel good. The offense doesn't look good. Maybe you're kind of spinning through quarterbacks because you hadn't got that situation figured out. I mean, I could paint that, but the reality is, in this new era of college football, like hope springs eternal with the playoff.
Right.
And so you have the ability then to get in the playoff and go on a run and do what you're able to do and be. I think of Ohio State, if you're always making that second round, you're one of the best 8 teams, which I think historically you would say over the last 15 years,
sure,
far more times than not that they're going to be one of those best 8 teams. And probably over half the time, they're going to be one of those Final 4 teams.
Yeah, I think so too. I just wonder, like, if there are, if Ohio State does hit a hiccup somewhere, if a disjointed 10-2 is a great way to put it, Bob. If they're a disjointed 10-2, will the same fans who wanted him fired after the Michigan game last year, will they have? Do you think that what happened last season would give them a pause before saying we got to make a change?
No, they'll be overly emotional, and the reality is, and I'll have to point out, like I did last year, like what he's done and how good Ryan is, and he's the same coach today as he was 4 years ago, probably a better version of it, but the same man. Like people at Ohio, that's the beauty of Ohio State, is the expectations that come with it. And some of them are unrealistic and they're unrelenting, but with that, those expectations also come a lot of privilege and opportunity. And so you have to just balance those two things out. But there are people here, there are people right now that still think Ryan should be fired. That's fine. You can have those opinions. You can have those feelings. I challenge you to find a better coach out there, because if you're going to move on from him, like Tress said, in this day and age, there's a lot of uncertainty when you're bringing in a new coach and how you're going to be able to build that culture. Because if you're bringing them in, you're going to want to win right away. You're going to the portal. Do you start living in the portal then, and how that impacts your culture and everything else? Ohio State has not missed a hire since Woody Hayes. Earl Bruce played for national championships. Right. You look at John Cooper. They were a national championship caliber roster playing for a national championship. Like, they were right there in it. Like Tress, Woody, Urban, now Day have all won one.
Yeah.
So if you're going to move on, you better make damn sure that you know who you're moving to, and that you think that grass is really green, because it's really tough to make sure that you always get the next best coach. And you look at programs like Florida and Texas and Michigan, like there's a lot of prominent programs that missed on one hire and then followed up that. Maybe they didn't even give the guy enough time or the resources. And then you miss on that next hire. All of a sudden now you've burned the better part of a decade in being mediocrity. And that third hire better be right.
Yeah.
If you miss on two in a row.
Yeah, Nebraska and Alabama also had their missteps earlier. A long time ago with Alabama. Nebraska, those, I was still trying to get back from where they were, when they were one of the prominent.
Hey, Bo Pelini's looking pretty good right now.
No doubt. I think Nebraska fans will take that. So I hope, and I like what Tress said there, and it's absolutely true, that yes, you got it. You can't, it's not just I'm going to fire a coach, bring a new guy in, because you fire that coach, there will be, you give every player a reason to transfer. Right then and there.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's a big – and the staff too, coaching staff also.
Yeah. They're like, get rid of them. Like, well, it's like, you like Brian Hartline, all those receivers. Well, if you bring in a new coach, there's a good chance he's not going to be there.
Right.
All right? You know who's going to be gone? J.J. Smith, who is really good. Like, why do you think some of those guys left Alabama and came here last year?
Yeah.
Because Saban was gone.
Right.
Like, when that happens, you're going to lose some of your players and probably some of your best ones. So – you got to understand everything that comes with it. And people are like far too simplistic. Well, the new coach, you just keep Hartline. Well, maybe JJ would still want to leave anyway.
Sure.
And maybe Hartline wouldn't want to coach for a different coach. Like, there's a lot of different things that could happen that would impact the quality of players on this roster and ultimately the outcome.
I can't envision a scenario in my mind where Day has a dip. Like where Ohio, where I just can't. I'm trying to think about what would have to happen. They are on such a incredible roll with, success on the field, people staying in trouble off the field, and fantastic recruiting, and almost a damn near perfect utilization of the transfer portal.
Yeah,
it would take a lot for things to go south here.
Oh, absolutely. They've built a really good culture. Like you talked about the off the field stuff. When was the last time, knock on wood here, that there's been an off the field issue with Ohio State, the football team?
I'm trying to think of what it would have been. If it happened, it was probably minor because I blocked it out. I don't know. Exactly. The stuff, there's not players shooting out teammates' tires and stuff like that. No one's stealing gasoline. No one's, I don't know if the changes in NIL have help prevent some of those things?
Some of them.
Yeah,
you're right. But you're getting a mature kid as well. And that's a function of Ryan and what he's been able to do and the culture he's been able to ultimately build. So yeah, that's a testament to him. You don't even hear about the speeding stuff you're talking about with Shedeur.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, all the stuff with George, any issues are former players now. So there hasn't been any negative news because they get really good young men.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the quality, and I've gotten the chance through doing shows with you and stuff like that to talk to some of these guys like Lathan Ransom we talked to and things like that, and just get to speak to some of those players that have come through here, and it's amazing how polished they are, and how great they do with media and questions and the adversity stuff we talk about too. It's very, very impressive. All right,
they're pros.
Yeah,
they're pros. That's what they get. Ohio State, you get pros now. And they're professional young men. And I mean that in a positive way, not in a negative way, but they're professional young men.
All right, coming up next, we'll wrap things up, tell you what's got us juiced. Morning, Juice.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. I care deeply about creating a world we can all fully participate in, free from stigma, misperceptions, and barriers. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Rooted in communities nationwide, Easter Seals helps empower millions of people, regardless of age or disability, through its life-changing services and powerful advocacy. Today and every day, Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
While serving in Vietnam, a grenade took my ability to see. Today, I'm a sculptor. Now, my fingers are my eyes. I'm Michael Naranjo. As a veteran, I know the challenges of life can be great. In my art, turning a lump of clay into something beautiful, that is worth doing. Life is like that. We each must use what we can to make things better.
DAV helps veterans like Michael get the benefits they've earned. They help more than 1 million veterans every year in life-changing ways.
Now, I show others how they can create something with their own hands. I know it can do a lot of good. With support from DAV, more veterans can shape their lives into a thing of beauty. My victory is bringing beauty into the world.
Michael Naranjo, may your victories inspire many more. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
I'm a wife and the mother of 2 kids, and I've got a good job.
Bye, Mom. See you, Mom.
A pretty important job. Because of my family and my job, I really care about this neighborhood. It's a good neighborhood. Yes, there's some crime. And when I drive to work, like now, I realize that some people here don't trust the police. So the police should be reaching out to this community, and this community should reach out to the police. That's the way to make this a safer place. And when I get to work in the precinct house and put on my uniform, I can tell you as a police officer that this department is reaching out to the community, and the community is doing its part. We're building partnerships. This should be happening everywhere. This is how we can all be safer. Get involved. Start the conversation.
Start the conversation and help stop crime. To learn the 5 things you can do, go to ncpc.org/prevent violent crime. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Bobby is known as the General. Tito shops at Dollar General. This is Morning Juice.
All right, Morning Juice, final segment of the program. Thank you to all the juicers chiming in on the chat. Love having those conversations. Let's see what I got here. It was Joe says Fickle fans will hate and love as they see it. Not fickle Luke Fickle, fickle Ohio State fans, he's saying on that one. Someone else said they grew up thinking the Rose Bowl was part of the schedule when Ohio State playing that quite often. So let's tell the fans out there what's got us juiced.
What's got you juiced?
Sponsored by Billiards Plus. Find your next grill and everything you need for the master griller. Billiards Plus on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin.
Well, according to my research, it's Monday, which probably means that the guy in Dayton will go first.
Oh, well, thank you, Thidoff. And your research, I think, is correct in that. So well done out of you. What's got me juiced? A lot of fun weekend, a lot of good stuff going on with some lacrosse playing. My daughter McLean, they won their tournament over there in New Albany. So in the scorching heat, they had a barn burner 6-5 win on Sunday afternoon. Had some stuff we had to get taken care of, and then got a chance to get over here to see my guy, Marcus Freeman, and Jordan Cornett and his lovely wife, Shay. They have an event for honoring his late brother, Joel, and his passing. So getting a chance to come over here and meet some great people. I was fortunate to be a part of it last year, and another great event this year, and get a chance to see Marcus and getting to see his wife, Joanna, who I hadn't seen in a long time, and just having some great conversations, and them trying to get up to a Notre Dame game this year and go check them out and everything they've got going on. Should be a lot of fun as well. Going to play some golf today. Played pretty well at the coaches outing on Thursday. We'll see if I still have some of that good luck in me.
Who's in your
I realized
foursome?
set up when
You know?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, it's a mystery. Show up there and they tell me who to play with, and then I go from there. I realized I got here. I brought some like athletic shorts and some clothes, different things. I realized I didn't bring a pair of like golfing shorts, so I'm gonna have to probably buy some of those at the golf course.
I'm sure it won't be overpriced at all.
Yeah, well, it's at NCR, so you're probably right, but I'm sure they probably got some cool stuff there. So give me a reason to buy something if I'm going in. So check that out. It should be a lot of fun then as well. And then, Shark, I got a little nugget I sent over there yesterday. Let's take a listen.
The Roman soldiers had an average step of 5.28 feet. So it was 5.28 feet, and so every 1,000 steps, they would put a 1,000-step marker alongside of their road. Well, 5.28 step by 1,000 is 5,280 feet, which is the length of a mile. And the Italian Latin word for 1,000 is mille, M-I-L-E, mile. So the length of our mile today is the length that a Roman soldier would take 1,000 steps. And so we still have this remnant of the Roman Empire on the speedometers of all of our cars, at least in America.
Wow. That was like...
Did you know that?
Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. That was
now
great.
You know the rest of the story. Good day.
When I saw that, I was like, you know what? I think Shark will get a kick out of this, because I had no idea that was the origins of the mile, because it seems like kind of an arbitrary distance. And now you know the mille, the Italian mile, the 5.18 and the 1,000 paces, and there you go.
What's amazing, Bob, is that their step was 5.28 feet, because the average human walks 30 inches per step, which is
really
2.5 feet. They were jumping per step.
Wow. I guess, yeah, you're right. That is that big of a step. That's quite the stride there.
That's darn near 2 yards per step.
Yeah.
Maybe it was every 2 steps or something. I don't know, but that was a great story. Thank you, Bob.
All right. What is Schleg's got to say?
Here's probably the best takeaway from this, guys. And this is just the reality of the situation. And I wrote this down. I don't know where I put the
there you go. Find the doomajig.
No. It's in my mind. It's in my mind.
I had a fantastic weekend despite not having my wife around. She left at 6:30 on Thursday morning and got home at 9 o'clock last night. So I was a bachelor for 4 days. I got in all kinds of trouble. Normally at church, we sit in the risers because the music is so loud. Bob goes to a church where the music's really loud.
Sure, yeah.
And at our church, it's the same way where, I mean, you feel the bass. It's just boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And it's about blow your hair. So we always sit in the risers because the music's so loud. I don't want to sit up there. I want to sit in the front row. So I went to church by myself yesterday because Jan was up in Michigan, and I sat in the second row.
Really?
I was a naughty boy. Sat all the way up front in church. Also, 3 weeks ago, I guess it was, we had Sarah Spain on, wrote the book Runs in the Family. Megan, my daughter Megan, bought me the book for Father's Day, and I started that this weekend. So that had me juiced. I'm only about 50 pages in, but it's a good book so far, which I knew it would be, just hearing the story. Tribe loses the first 3 games on their 9-game road trip in Seattle. Came back, took 2 of 3 in San Francisco, 2 of 3 in Sacramento, so it ended up 4-5. I always look ahead to road trips, look at the pitching matchups, and then predict what they will do, or I have a goal in mind, and I was thinking 5-4 going into this. They went 4-5, so that was pretty good. And then I read this morning, Tito, about your Reds. They have not been swept in the first 25 series of the season this year.
They haven't been swept?
They haven't been swept. It's the first time that's happened since 1989. Back then, They went the first 30 series without being swept. So good for your Reds. Terry Francona, I heard, is a pretty good manager. Going to end up in the Hall of Fame.
He's a really good manager.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm glad he's back where he belongs.
Where he belongs?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, he
grew
grew up in Cleveland, and he played for Cleveland.
Played for the Reds also.
And he was in the Cleveland front office,
Yeah,
and then he was the Cleveland manager.
I don't know if he's ever said this or not publicly, but privately, he said Cincinnati's home for me. That's what he said.
You're right. I've never heard him
not on the
say
record, but I mean, like off the record, he said that. I know, kind of. I think that's the case. What's got me juiced? Let's see. My daughter is going to be exhausted this week because she's volunteering at Vacation Bible School, VBS, for 3 hours a week. I don't know, 8:30 to maybe it's almost 4 hours, 12:30, whatever it is.
What is she, 11?
She's 11, yeah. And then Heather's going to pick her up and go straight to this camp until 4:30. And then she's got lacrosse camp from 6 to 8.
Wow.
Every day this week. I don't know about Friday, maybe not Friday, but it's certainly Monday through Thursday. She is going to be exhausted, which I'm glad she's getting a chance to do this, like on the go all day, no fight about electronics and, getting on the iPad and watching a movie or something like that, watching Arrow, which her and Heather want to do. And so that's got me juiced. Artie's going to VBS, also the same camp. So the kids will be out and about. I know it'll be a little warm today, but they'll be outside, though, at this water camp thing they're doing. So that'll be fun for them. Juiced about that. Juiced about the Reds and Yankees series starting. I hope the Reds can do well there. They're playing at Great American Ballpark. Every time the Reds play the Yankees, you end up seeing highlights from the 1976 World Series when the Reds swept the Yankees. I can't know how damn long ago that was.
You're getting old.
Yeah, we are getting old, Shark.
And
I know.
You got a rookie going against them tomorrow night.
Rookie tomorrow. And the Yankees have a rookie going tonight, I believe, and the Reds have a rookie going tomorrow night. And obviously, in my convoluted mind, I think, well, the Yankees, that's bad news for them having a rookie going against the Reds. It might make his first start ever, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And so I think that's bad for the Yankees. The Reds starting one, it's a good sign. Chase Burns is going to be a stud. I have my way of twisting things around that way. But that's got me juiced. Bob, I did not forget what we talked about last week. I told my wife about it.
What was that?
About me doing a half mile in 8 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to do it this weekend.
It's too hot for you.
I'm pretty sure the surface temperature at the high school track, based on my calculations, was 150 degrees. And so it wouldn't have gone well for me to try to do it this weekend. But I have not forgotten. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have it recorded. It might be great content. We'll see. But I'm planning on doing it maybe in the evening this week. I'll try to do it before it gets, after it cools down a little bit, hopefully.
It's going to be 93 today, Tito. You going to the pool?
If by pool you mean sitting in air conditioning, yeah, probably. No, we got some yard work to do. I mowed this weekend. I sledgehammered, Bobby. That's a big deal. We've got this. What's that face for, Bob?
I'm just trying to figure out what you would have been using a sledgehammer for. Do you have your own sledgehammer?
No. Bobby, there's things that, listen, boats, campers, pools, tools, okay? I don't need any of that stuff. I just need friends who have that stuff. I don't need that stuff.
I get it.
No one ever asks me to take a ride in my boat because I don't have one. No one ever comes to swim in my pool. I don't have one. I go to their houses. I stay in their campers sometimes. But no one ever calls me and say, Tito, I'm looking for a T-square. Is that what it's called, T-square? Is there such a thing as T-square? You guys are both looking like crazy. Maybe it's wrong. Anyway, so, and by the way, just to set the record straight, my wife called this guy we know and said, can I borrow a sledgehammer? And he said yes, and she'll send Jeff over to get it.
Maybe you should have asked for a jackhammer instead of a sledgehammer.
I go to get it.
What were you busting up?
We've got these big rocks, and Heather wants to break them down into pebbles. Best she can, like much smaller pieces for this patio thing we're building. By we, I mean her.
Me?
So anyway, I go to the guy's house.
Why don't you just go out and buy some pebbles?
Because look, Heather's all about save the earth. Don't waste money. We've got all these rocks here.
Save the earth. It's rocks, dude.
Bob,
you buy.
There's
it's not like
plenty
you're
of
cutting
rocks.
down a tree.
Bob,
It's a rock.
I'm telling you, Bob. Trust me, that'd be my
Save
solution
the
also.
earth.
So
It's a rock.
I go to pick up this sledgehammer. And
you can't even dispose of a rock. If you throw a rock away, it's still going to be in the earth where all the other rock is.
If you look, Bobby's got her number. I'll give you her number if you want it, Shark. You can call in this because I can't. Anyway, it's a 10-pound sledgehammer. And I go, this guy is a sports fan, loves to fan these things like this, and I haven't talked to him for a while. And so I got the sledgehammer in my arm, and I'm holding it, while we're talking. And he keeps asking questions about the fan and about the Blue Jackets and what things going on here. And he's a Reds fan. So we're talking this whole time. I'm sitting there holding that sledgehammer for like 15 minutes because I'm thinking I'm not going to put it down because that looks wimpy. But I'm holding it at the same level for like 15 minutes. And I get home and my arm is numb from holding that thing like that. So we go out in the back. Heather swings it a few times, breaks up some of the rocks. I swung it, once or twice, and that was good enough for me. I could check it off my list that I've used a sledgehammer.
How are your arms this morning?
You know what? I'll tell you this also, by the way, you two. I was a sight to see yesterday because I mowed the lawn. I was wearing sweatpants, okay? When it was hot. Why? To get a workout in. I wanted it to be a workout. I had 5-pound ankle weights on while I was doing it.
Oh, God.
I had on one of those headbands with speakers in it. That it wasn't like headphones, it was a headband with speakers in it. And I had on some free sunglasses I picked up. And Heather said that I looked like, she said, I can't even describe, I can't take you seriously when you're dressed like that. Out there in the...
because you look like a dork.
I don't know if dork's the right word. A fitness guy, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. But, I mowed our entire small front yard and side yard with ankle weights and sweatpants on, Bob. So
you're ridiculous.
This man card, listen, the manliness scale for me, I sledgehammered and I mowed in ankle weights, Bob. Look, don't hate, appreciate, because I'm taking steps in the right direction. All right, that's it for today. You here tomorrow? You're going to stay out there?
By the way,
yeah, good.
Well, the fire. The reason there's so much smoke with it.
Yeah,
is someone reached out to me and said a car cut off a tanker and a gas tanker flipped over. Because I was like, what is burning in that thing?
Yeah.
And that's what led to that. Yes.
Are you here tomorrow? Or you can be there tomorrow.
There's a party tonight that they want me to go to, unknown. I'm trying to go home, so we'll see.
You're going to stay on for the show meeting, right?
I don't know if that is necessary, but sure.
Bob, we'll talk tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Morning Juice.
Hey, guys. 13-year NFL veteran and Super Bowl champion Jason McCourty here, and I'm an innovation ambassador at FAIR, Food Allergy and Research Education. I would say the most challenging thing as a parent of a kid who has a food allergy is probably the ignorance that I myself had in the beginning. I didn't know what anaphylactic shock was. I didn't know the dangers, let alone the things that she needed to be able to have a normal life. When you go to drop your kid off, and every single time in the beginning, we'd have to go through everything she was allergic to. Preparation is everything. And me, for playing football for 13 years, it was all throughout the course of the week. It's getting ready for game day. When you're on the field, you're playing for your fans. At home, you're playing for your family. My playbook: read labels, keep it allergy friendly, and have an epinephrine nasal spray as a backup plan. Because when my family's safe from food allergens, that's the real victory. Visit foodallergy.org to learn more.
We are the keepers of 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
America's hunters and target shooters, along with firearm, ammunition, and archery manufacturers, have invested more than $46 billion to help state fish and wildlife agencies manage and protect wild.